Hey, welcome back to the channel, this tactical intellectual channel here. We're about to embark on a new series. It's going to be dealing with the United Kingdom, the UK, the British Isles, whatever you want to refer to it as. And this is a show and prove when it comes to the evidence and everything, facts and evidence. That's what we are built on, and truth. So we're about to just go on this journey. It's not new information, but it's information that has been forgotten about, but it's definitely relevant, and a lot of people aren't even aware of this stuff. So we're about to get into it. Without further ado, here we go. Okay, so one of these sources that I want to delve into is this book called The Place of the Welsh in the History of Britain by Boyd Dawkins. And I know that we are in the age of information and misinformation, unfortunately. And just to let you guys know that this is a legit source, I'm going to show the front cover or the inside covers, and you will see I guess the date it was published at 1889, and also that this was it's in the collection of the Harvard College Library, April 18th, 1896, right there. So now that we have that out of the way, I mean, you can pause the video if you want, but I'm gonna go forward on page 7. Now this part is talking about the small dark Welsh. I'm not gonna read the entire portion right here. I'm just gonna read just a little bit of it. So the important parts of this this page right here. If you want to read the rest of it, you can just pause the video and check it out. But we're gonna go to page 8 right there, and I'm gonna drop down, and okay, I'm gonna start where it says it is clear. Okay, so it says it is clear, however, from the pages of Caesar or Caesar and Tacitus, that at the time of the Roman conquest there were at least two distinct peoples in Britain: the tall, fair-haired, blue-eyed Celt, identical with the Gaelic tribes, and the dark-complexioned, wavy-haired South Welshmen, or Silures, who are compared by Tacitus to the Iberi of Spain. This comparison is now amply justified by a visit to most Welsh towns on a market day, say Denbigh or St. Asaph or Asaph, where the small dark Welshman is to be seen identical in everything but dress and speech with the small dark Basque of the Western Pyrenees, both French and Spanish. We need not, however, go so far as the Pyrenees to find people identical with the small dark Welsh, the small dark Irish of the southwest of Ireland, the small dark Highlander of Scotland, and the dark inhabitants of Devon and Cornwall are physically of the same race. The recent researches of Beddoe prove also that the small dark Yorkshiremen and Derbyshiremen are of the same small dark stock. On the continent we find this same race still in Brittany and in various districts in the valley of the Loire, as is clearly proved by Dr. Broca's maps, until at last we come to the Basques of the Pyrenees and the small dark population of Spain. There is no longer any room for doubt that the small dark Welshman is a fragment of a people formerly widely extended over Europe, but now broken up into ethnological islands by subsequent invasions. Okay, so there you see that small dark element there in the British Islands, because the book is called The Place of the Welsh, and then these pages right here, you see the accounts of the small dark Welsh, the small dark Irish, the small dark Highlander of Scotland, and the dark inhabitants of Devon and Cornwall. So this claim is not baseless by any means. Okay, so now we are on page 16 of the book, The Place of the Welsh. And okay, so it's talking about the invasion by the Celts, and we're gonna revisit this as we go further into I guess other parts of the UK. Like I'm gonna do like a Scotland segment, a Ireland, and so on and so forth. But I'm not gonna read the whole thing. We're just gonna kind of read portions right there. Okay, so let's proceed. It says in a preceding article, the small dark element in the Welsh people has been proved to be a fragment of the Iberian race that occupied the whole of Britain, France, and Spain in the remote age of polished stone. Okay, now we're gonna drop down. Okay, now you see what it says. See where it says it. Okay, it says it was a race not only pre-Aryan but non-Aryan, and it belongs to an ill-defined section of mankind found in early times in Sicily and represented now by the Berbers and Kabyles. Yeah, I probably butchered that one. And the Aborigines of the Canary Islands right there. Okay, so we see just by reading that the small dark element was very, very extensive, and a key important fact to remember is that it was pre-Aryan and non-Aryan. Okay, so our next source right here is the book entitled Riddles of Prehistoric Times by James H. Anderson right there. So we're gonna look at first of all, just to let you guys know that this is a legitimate source right here, we're gonna look at the inside covers, or the inside pages right there. Okay, Riddles of Prehistoric Times by James H. Anderson, 1911 right there. Broadway Publishing Company, New York, Baltimore, and Atlanta. Okay, so we're gonna go into page 37, and it's chapter 3, Primitive Man. Okay, it says the first men were probably small in stature, dark skinned with dark hair and eyes, with small heads, longer from front to back than across, low foreheads with projecting ridges around the eyes, powerful jaws, strong teeth, and with arms and legs adapted to climbing trees. Okay, so you see a person being described as having dark hair, dark eyes, and most importantly, dark skin. The Place of the Welsh book and the Riddles of Prehistoric Times book definitely corroborates one another. Okay, so this book right here, Riddles of Prehistoric Times, it has the third chapter with the chapter name Primitive Man. I have the definitions for primitive right there because I know a lot of people think negative things when they hear that word, like something is low quality or low grade, but I have the definitions right there and synonyms of what primitive means. So you see original, you see prime, you see first. So think of that. Don't think of low quality or anything that is beneath everything else. Okay, so page 57 and page 58 of Riddles of Prehistoric Times. It reads, the Iberians in ancient times inhabited the western and southern parts of Europe, the northern parts of Africa. In fact, all parts reached from the Mediterranean Sea, the Basques in Spain and France, the little dark Welshmen, the Scotch and black Celts to the west of the Shannon River in Ireland, as well as the same kind of men in Brittany, and Aquitaine in France. The Guanches of the Canary Islands, and the Berbers in Africa are all probably the remnants of the race. Drop down, and it says the Basque are of middle size, compactly built, robust, and agile, of a darker complexion than the Spaniards. Okay, so we're going to drop down some more. The first inhabitants of southern Europe, northern Africa, Arabia, France, and the British Islands were a race of small men who did not average in height more than about 4 feet 5 inches. They were of slight build with a dark complexion. They were cave dwellers, emanations from Lemuria. Drop down a little bit. They were an African people. Okay, drop down some more. It is said that the first people in Ireland were the Formatians. They were a dark, stunted race, utterly savage, using rough, unwrought stone implements. So far as can be learned, they did not know the use of fire. It is said that they came from Africa on ships. So this is about the UK right here, general UK. Eventually I will do like Scotland, Wales, and Britain or England, and what's the other one, Ireland. And as you can see, it's going to be controversial, man, because this information was forgotten about when they went through the progressive era, you know. But you can already see, this is foreshadowing right here. You can already see, based on the information, where I'm going next, the whole continent. But that's going to be later on. I'm just going to address the British Islands first. Okay, so now we have this book right here called Annals of the Caledonians, Picts, and Scots, and of Strathclyde, Cumberland, Galloway, and Murray. And this is a document or account from Cornelius Tacitus. So we're going to start on page 8 right here. And what we're going to look at is, excuse me. Okay, it's talking about, okay, it says Tacitus, the earliest writer who attempts to describe the natives of Caledonia or the north of Britain, knew nothing of its first inhabitants, whether natives of his own or brought over, as he observes, among barbarians is seldom found. The habits of their bodies, he proceeds, are various, and thence these arguments. For the red hair of these inhabiting Caledonia and their great limbs assert their origin to be Germanic. Now, this is where you want to pay attention to right here. The swarthy countenance of these Silures who inhabited what is now called South Wales, and their curled hair for the most part, and their position against Spain induce a belief. He thinks that they were ancient Iberians who had passed over and occupied these seats. Okay, so we have the second volume of Annals of the Caledonians, Picts, and Scots, and of Strathclyde, Cumberland, Galloway, and Murray by Joseph Ritson, Esquire. Page 7. We're gonna drop down to where it says Mr. Pinkerton, who says that in person the lowlanders are tall and large, with fair complexions, and often with flaxen, yellow, and red hair and blue eyes. The grand features of the Goths, as all or most of them are likewise of the Celts. In all ancient writers adds that the Highlanders are generally diminutive, with brown complexions, and almost always with black curled hair and dark eyes. Okay, so we are at 3 sources so far. Still got a 4th one to go before I close this video out. Now, I did do a two-part series on the complexion or color terminology. That was the most thorough as I can make it. Like that swarthy and everything. But if anybody want to try to, say that this is fake information, pseudo science and everything, well, I do have the place names video and the surnames video. So, this is just uncovering everything else. It's more thorough with more evidence and facts behind it. So, hey, say what you want, man. The information's there. And I have a lot more than this. Okay, so we're going to read a portion of the book Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 1. We're going to start on page 16. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I will read everything that is in the highlighted yellow. And if you want to read the entire thing, you can just pause the video. But here we go. It says, or it reads, the question of the origin of the white races, which have now long held the supremacy in these islands, scarcely enters into the present inquiry, which has to do more with their colored predecessors. Okay, so let's drop down to we, where it says we have just seen that many scientific men hold that there are some grounds for believing that portions, at least of Europe, have formerly been inhabited by black, tawny, and copper-colored races. And we are also learning that the white race has not always been confined to the Eastern Hemisphere. Interesting. Okay, so we're still in the book Ancient and Modern Britons, but this time we're going to read chapter 3. You can find this on page 13-9, the highlighted portion. We're going to read that. The rest of it, you can pause and finish reading for yourself. And it reads, a distinguished writer on ethnology lays down certain propositions which he terms fixed points in British ethnology. His first proposition is this: 1800 years ago, the population of Britain comprised peoples of two types of complexion, the one fair and the other dark. The dark people resembled the Aquitani and the Iberians. The fair people were like the Belgic Gauls. His second proposition is this, or is, the people termed Gauls and those called Germans by the Romans did not differ in any important physical character. These two propositions we may accept as well-founded. Still in the book Ancient and Modern Britons, same chapter, that's chapter 3, pages 40 and 41 reads, but our islands contained other races at that period, when the war with the Silures, who occupied territories in the southwest, brought them, the Romans, in contact with that people. Tacitus records the result of their observation. Their complexion was different and of a darker hue. Their hair was curly, and they resembled the Iberians. Okay, so these are 4 sources right here, all saying the same thing, all speaking out on the same type of people. I mean, we have historical figures. I mean, it can't be debunked, man. You can't have some contemporary person in our day talking about, oh, Tacitus doesn't know what he's talking about. He was talking about tan. No, man. They're using swarthy, they're using dark, they're using brown. I mean, what more do you want? Come on now. Let's be for real. Okay, so we're going to proceed with page 44, and it reads, but at any rate, the people known as Iberians were spread all over the British Islands, whether indigenous or immigrants, and some of their tribes were known as Damnonii and Silures. This seems to be generally admitted. Physically, they were swarthy of color, had curly hair, and were bearded like goats. They, or some clans of them, worship the gods, and both men and women professed a knowledge of the future. So then the Druids and Druidesses, who had colleges in an island near the coast of Brittany, who professed a knowledge of the future, who, the men at least, were figured as bearded like goats, and who worshiped the gods, were dark-skinned, curly-haired Iberians of the tribe of the Silures, or Damnoni, or Damnoni. This seems a fair inference. Okay, we're still in Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 1. We're on what page are we on? 45. Okay, and it reads, the Iberians are styled swarthy and curly-haired. The word swarthy is rather elastic, although literally Schwarz. Yet, it is taken, I fancy, to mean something not quite so dark as the color of a Negro in its usual acceptation. Perhaps this distinction does not exist, but at any rate, if the small dark Highlander and the black Celt to the west of the Shannon be assumed to be the descendants of Iberians, it may fairly be argued that with so much intermixture with fairer races during the last 2,000 years, the stock must now be lighter skinned than then, and its representatives of the first century must have been actually as black as Negroes. As a matter of fact, Pliny characterizes their complexion as Aethiopium, that is, as black as an Ethiopian, and it may be that the curliness of their hair was of the same nature as a Negro's also. Thus, the Negritos of Huxley, the owners of such skulls as those found in Caithness, may have been allied to the ancient Iberians. That the wild tribes of Ireland were black men is hinted by the fact that a wild Irishman is in Gaelic a black Irishman, dubbed Arianak. Hey, that's the Anglo-USA version. So, I tried. Okay, so now for this paragraph here, I really have to put a disclaimer because a lot of people, they may make assumptions that he's talking about, okay, swarthy doesn't mean black and or brown or Negro or anything. Just like in that terminology video, that the older guy, he was like, swarthy doesn't mean Negro and all that stuff, man. But don't assume because he's telling you his personal opinion, because like back in those days, someone from Africa or somebody who was quote unquote a Negro, they had that raw umber color, that very, very dark brown. But even then, even back in those days, you had light skinned people, brown skinned people, and everything, various shades of brown. So I mean, he kind of contradicts himself later on in that paragraph on page 45. So just look at the whole scope of things, look at everything, and use your discernment and put it all together. Do comparative research, more than 2 or 3 sources. Use multiple sources and come to the correct conclusion. Okay, so we're on page 46 right now, and it reads, now when Claudian wrote, and for a long time after, Marus signified a great deal more than a native of Mauritania, or it may be more correct to say that Mauritania implied as much, though in a different quarter, as Scythia did. Any Latin dictionary, any old one at least, will tell you that Marus is a Moor, a blackamoor, or a tawny Moor, and Shakespeare uses the word Moor as a synonym for Negro. as that last word bears nowadays a somewhat restricted meaning, it may be better to take the old-fashioned blackamoor as the nearest English rendering of Marus, signifying thereby any black or brown-skinned man. Yo, this is great information right here. They are skillful in driving the point home right there. Now, how much you want to bet? A person from our time, they're going to look at this and be like, well, you know what? Shakespeare, he wasn't really that smart anyway. I mean, come on, everybody knows Moor is a super mixed Arab. But they don't even think, man, because Moor, Marus, Mauritania, that's Latin. That's not even Arab right there. It's not even Arabic. So, I mean, come on. These people today with their read definitions and everything, redefining words 4 times over, give you a headache, man, because they just speak and parrot a bunch of foolishness, man. Okay, so this is page 46, the end, going into 47, and it reads, and the British Picts, like those of other lands, stand out again as dark-skinned men. A complementary witness with Marus is Gorm, found attached to the names of Highland and other chiefs and kings. Page 47 of the book Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 1, it reads, now, although in the Gaelic of Scotland a Negro is known as Dwayne Dub, a black man, he is known in the Gaelic of Ireland as Dwayne or Dwayne Gorm, a blue, green, or woad-stained man. And while in the Scottish Highlands, the adjective glass is used to signify both swarthy and green. In Wales, it has the meaning of green or blue. And in the latter country, the Gaelic Gorm, here spelled Gwrm, Gwrm, is equivalent to brown. What possible explanation for all this apparent confusion of terms can there be except the patent one that a brown-skinned man and a woad-colored man were one and the same? Marus is a word which suggests a great deal. It has this in common with the Ugrian word Kara or Kiar, previously glanced at, that it not only signifies swarthiness of skin, but it is radically connected with a marsh or morass or carse, as it is called in Scotland. Okay, this is still chapter 3, page 49. The highlighted portion reads, there has been much written about Mir, Menin, and other water people, and the subject is usually treated mythologically, although capable, I venture to think, of being interpreted realistically. This view of the origin of Marus must, however, be disregarded here, and our attention turned more directly to the dwellers among the moors and marshes. Whether they gave their name to these places or were so styled because they inhabited them, they were at any rate known as Moors. That is to say, this became the general pronunciation given to the word. The original root seems likelier to have been Moor, as seen in Cornish, Amorican, and other languages. Jameson in his Scottish dictionary says of the word Moriave or Moriave, defined by him as black, swarthy, resembling a Moor. Okay, so let's drop down. Okay, and it reads, he also connects this word with the morion that formed the headpiece of the medieval man at arms. Another English word from this root is murrey, meaning dark red or copper colored. Okay, so we're in page 50, of the book Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 1, and it reads, Lempriere gives several nations bearing names beginning with Mor, the Moray or Moranzes in India, and the Moruni in that country also, and the Morini, a people of Belgic Gaul on the shores of the British Ocean, are examples. The Maori of Mauritania are perhaps the most notable examples of a nation bearing this name, though in a slightly altered shape. The consideration of this word and the localization of races thus named is not irrelevant at this point, for although it may not be easy to trace their route hither and the date of their arrival, a branch of this family did inhabit Britain and are not only known as Maori and Moors, but also as Moravians, identical with the name of those in India, Murray man, and people of Moray or Moravia. This name, Moravia, was given to two districts in Scotland, one the most important in the north central and the other in the southern portion of the country, that the Picts, known to the Romans as Moiri, were finally divided into two sections inhabiting these localities is a speaking fact which it is well to remember at this juncture. The smaller district in the south has been the name father of a family distinguished in Scottish history, the Murrays of Philiphaugh in Selkirkshire, which is now Selkirk, whose ancestor Archibald de Moravia was among those who subscribed to the oath of fealty to Edward I of England in 1296. Guys, we are at the end of this video here. I am not going to say too much about it because this is a foundational video and it's just part one of this series here. One thing I will highlight is that this source that I use, the Place of the Welsh right here, and Ancient and Modern Britons to be exact, that's a really good source, and it already establishes that there were two types of people. Racially, there were two types of people in the British Isles right there. Wait until I do my Ireland video, and you'll see what I mean. But there were definitely two types of people. One, I guess you can call them light, pale, Gorjo type of people. That Gaucho and Gorjo, you'll know that term later on, but it was definitely swarthy, aka brown, various shades of brown people there first. Those were the originals. They call them primitive, but don't think of primitive as something like a low grade object or person or culture or anything of that nature. It was the original, the first. So I'm going to end this video here, but make sure you like, subscribe, and look out for the next video here. All right, next time.